Hey, Mike Wolf here for Mike Wolf Mastery, and today I'm shooting a video inspired by one of my Wolf Pack, somebody in my Wolf Pack named Peter. And Peter posted that there's two Canadian investors that were apparently very successful, and now they are going bankrupt because they overextended themselves, they over leveraged, and apparently they have they borrowed $4 million secured and $4 million unsecured, so $8 million in debt, and their assets are worth now $4 million. So they're $4 million in the hole, and on top of that, they've got $60,000 a year that they're supposed to be paying to their investors that they're obviously not paying right now. So I thought, well, I think this is a great topic, and it's a great example of something I see quite frequently, especially when the markets turn. And so I want to give you some pointers on how to make sure this doesn't happen to you if you're an investor, and how you do get your money back if you're a money partner and you're investing in somebody else's deal. So number one, if you're the investor, you're always looking for a backup plan. You need a plan B 100% of the time. And so I remember back during the last recession, by around 2007, 2008, a little bit before that, if you go to Vegas, there were cranes all up and down the Las Vegas Strip. There were cranes near downtown, and they were building hotels, and they were building casinos, and they were building apartments. They were going crazy. Development was insane. And then, of course, we know what happened shortly after. And the banks basically said, hey, we know we agreed to loan you money, but we're not going to anymore because now the building that was worth X amount is only worth Y amount. So we're going to lend you a lot less. And there's still a lot of projects that were half finished and they're still sitting there. Or in some other cases, another investor came by after the fact and got some of these projects for like pennies on the dollar. So I would much rather be that investor getting something for pennies on the dollar than the person who's got this really lofty dream. And there's nothing wrong with having big dreams, by the way. But if you don't know what you're doing, it can be disastrous, as we're seeing. So once again, a few pointers. One, have a plan B. So one of the reasons why I love single family homes, and it's not nearly as sexy as multi-family, it's not nearly as sexy as commercial. There's a million things way more sexy than single family homes. Yet if I buy a single family home, unless I'm looking to flip it, well, my plan B, I'm going to look at if this doesn't go as planned. Let's say my renovations go overboard, and I'm going to find I'm not going to make a profit. Well, what could I rent it for? What could I do as a short-term rental? What could I do with this as a long-term rental? So if plan A doesn't work, I'm still going to win, and I'm still going to be able to pay my investors back, and everybody's going to be happy. So these guys did not have a plan B. Their only plan was, hey, let's hope the market keeps going up. And somebody who's been in the game as long as I have knows that real estate is cyclical, and what goes up must come down, and what comes down must come up. And you don't want to rely on perfect timing. You don't want to rely on luck. Instead, you want to have your insurance marker. An insurance marker is plan B, and even better yet, plan C, plan D, plan E. As long as you have that, it doesn't matter how much you're leveraged. You can be over leveraged, but as long as you know you can make those payments to the investors, it doesn't matter because you can ride out the storm. If you are in a position where you'll only win if it goes up, and a lot of people get greedy when the market is continuously going up, and I'm guessing that was the case here, that's a problem. So number one, number one is really just have a backup plan. Don't rely on only one plan to succeed, because that's going to lead you to massive potential failure. And that's what we're seeing right here. From the investor money partner side of things, one way you can protect yourself is, in this case, so they borrowed $4 million for this project secured, and then they borrowed another $4 million unsecured. If you're an unsecured investor, and by the way, what secured means is that you're on title. They put a caveat on title, meaning that if they sell the property, you're going to get paid. If you are unsecured, and in this case they're going bankrupt, you're going to get and I'm not a lawyer, by the way, so check with your lawyer, but you're probably never going to see that money again. It's gone, because if they go bankrupt, it wipes out all their all their debts. Now, a mortgage isn't treated the same as a loan, and a mortgage is attached to the property. The property is security. And if you're smart, you're not loaning more than a certain amount of loan to value. What loan to value means, if a property is worth $1 million, I probably wouldn't lend more than 70%, maybe 60%. So the most I would have into it, if I was the only lender, would be 700,000. That means if that $1 million property comes down in value, it would have to lose 30% before I'm in any danger of really losing my money, because I could foreclose, sell it for that million, get my money back, and I'm good. I'm golden. So you want to make sure, though, because real estate's cyclical, when we're in a time where the market's going crazy, well, what happens in the cycle after market goes crazy is I wouldn't say it comes crashing down, but it definitely softens to the point where it goes from being a strong seller's market to now you get that in between where it's more level for a short period of time, and then it becomes a strong buyer's market. And so if that $1 million property suddenly becomes 800,000 and you've got 700,000 of financing, you're still safe, you're still good. If you were to loan 100% loan to value, then you're pretty much doomed, because if that property comes down, you might get part of it, you might not. And then the second part of that equation is look at what position you are on title. So if you're the bank and you've loaned, let's use this as an example again, $4 million. Let's say the bank loaned $1 million. Well, they're really safe. Or 2 million or even 3 million, they're pretty safe. But if you're in second position, you got to remember most likely it's going to be the bank that forecloses before you do. And they're not really looking out for your interests. So they're going to try to recover their money. They may or may not try to get your money back. And so if you're in like the fourth, fifth, sixth position, or you're in a position where they've commingled a whole bunch of people's money together, there's a lot of danger in that. And so I always warn people, because I've seen so many of these projects go belly up. And keep in mind, nobody cares more about your money than you do. They do not. They rarely look out for your interests, and they're just concerned about themselves. So if you are going to be a lender, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. How many other lenders are there? Is how many? What's the value of the property? And not some fictitious thing that they tell you, hey, in a year from now it's going to be worth $10 million. That's all made up BS. So don't listen to what they say, but do a little bit of research, do some due diligence, find out what that building is really worth right now. And then also figure out what is the worst case scenario. Let's say the market were to drop. And by the way, I've been in markets, Las Vegas, for example, that market dropped 80%. So even if I would have done 60 cents on the dollar for loaning money, which I didn't, but if I did, I would have probably lost some money, even though I was very, very conservative at that time. So you have to really be prepared that what is the worst case scenario? And you could potentially lose your money. There is some inherent risk. So be very, very careful, once again, with how much you're loaning. Look at where you sit on title, look at how many other investors there are, how much skin in the game does the actual investor have of their own. And those are questions that, if you can answer them properly, will make your investment a lot safer. So those are some of the tips that I've got. Once again, you just got to be really careful whether you're the real estate investor doing the project, because and here's another thing and this is for all businesses. The reason most businesses fail is they're underfunded. They can't go through a storm. Imagine if in 2007 you had a property and you let it go into foreclosure. Well, 10 years later, or actually look at what happened during COVID. You would have made so much money during COVID holding a property if you could have withstood the storm to get to that point. But most people are very short-sighted. It's like, I want to make money fast. I want to get rich quick. And real estate's not about getting rich quick. Most people get rich quick also get poor quick, because you're just one deal away from either making it or breaking it. So you got to be really careful. So make sure that you're funded to the point where not only do you have enough to buy the property, but you have to have enough to go for a while making those payments to your other investors. And as I mentioned, in a lot of, well, in this specific case, my understanding is these investors were doing a development project. And I would never do a development project in a market like right now, where markets are probably heading downwards, interest rates are going up. You know that if you're doing a long-term project and we're heading into the environment we are now, you're selling into the storm. You know that's what's coming up. And so make sure you have the capital to withstand not just the fact that your interest rates are going to go up, not just the fact that your properties are probably going to come down, but you have to still make your monthly payments to those investors regardless of how well you're doing. And these people, in my opinion, failed to do that. So anyway, I hope you found that helpful. I'm Mike Wolf. We'll talk to you soon.